Hey Adventure, so really quickly today I'm going to just give my thoughts on Rings of Power episode 4. I didn't love this episode. I haven't watched anybody else's reviews or heard anybody else really talk about this episode yet, so my opinions may change after I hear some other people's thoughts and stuff. But as of right now, I liked things about it, but I didn't like the episode as a whole. I'll get more into that in a second here, and then when I do my spoiler discussion for next Thursday, I'll make sure I give a little bit more as to why this is the case. So this episode, episode 4 focused on the storyline of Arondir, the storyline of Elrond, and then the storyline of Galadriel. So those are the three storylines in this episode, and those are actually, well, the Elrond and the Arondir storylines are my two favorite storylines at the moment. Well, I guess I'll briefly, let's see, how do I do this spoiler free? So a lot of the stuff, basically the Arondir stuff, the first half of the Arondir stuff I liked well enough. It was the second half of it that didn't work quite as well for me. The Durin and Elrond stuff, there was some of it that it didn't feel the same as it did in the first episodes, and because of that, it didn't feel as true. But it wasn't bad, I guess. So none of them were really bad. I guess I will say that the stuff on Numenor was the kind of the highlight of this episode in many ways. It was the stuff I had the least issues with story-wise, but the most issues with lore-wise. This episode definitely furthered the story. Things happened in this episode that caused the story of the series to continue moving. There was also some character development in this episode, and those are really the two big things in this episode. And neither of those are bad things. In fact, those are good things for telling a story, but they just didn't work, or I guess they weren't strong enough to offset the just feelings of, I really don't care what's happening in this episode. And that's kind of disappointing. I was excited to come back and keep watching the show, and then I started watching it, and I watched it because it was Rings of Power, not because I particularly was enjoying it or interested in it. I wasn't disliking it, I just didn't love it. So it definitely furthered the story, it definitely had some character development, but I personally didn't care for this episode that much. I didn't think it was as good as, I think it was better than the first episode, probably about the same as the second episode, but not quite as good as the third episode, if that makes sense. In terms of personal enjoyment, in terms of what it was actually doing for the story, it definitely was good on that end in terms of furthering the storyline and stuff like that. So I think I'll leave my spoiler-free thoughts there, and so if you want to hear my spoilery thoughts, make sure you come back on Wednesday. I think I said it, my spoiler discussion comes out on Thursday, but it doesn't, it comes out on Wednesday. So make sure you come back for that if you want to hear my spoiler discussions on episode 4 of Rings of Power. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and then for Rings of Power, I'm doing Friday or Saturday whenever the video ends up coming up for this spoiler-free, just brief review and thoughts, and then Wednesday is usually adaptation stuff, so that's when anything that has to do with actual deep thoughts or more in-depth thoughts, I guess, on an adaptation of some sort. That's when those come out. It's on Thursday, or it's on Wednesdays. So we will see you guys again soon. Thanks for watching. Stay warm.